Question 1. A project manager is overseeing a software development project and needs to estimate the cost of new servers. They consult with subject matter experts, review historical data from similar projects, and apply parametric modeling based on the number of users. Which of the following is the most appropriate technique for this cost estimation? A. Analogous estimating. B. Bottom-up estimating. C. Three-point estimating. D. Reserve analysis. Answer: B. Bottom-up estimating. Bottom-up estimating is a method where project costs are estimated at the lowest level of the work breakdown structure, WBS, and then aggregated upwards to derive the total project cost. While the project manager uses historical data and parametric modeling as inputs, consulting subject matter experts for detailed component costs and then summing them up for specific server configurations best describes bottom-up estimating. This technique provides the most accurate estimate because it involves detailed analysis of individual work packages, though it is also the most time-consuming. Remember that precision comes from detail, which is the hallmark of bottom-up estimating. Question 2. A project's earned value, EV, is $250,000, its planned value, PV, is $270,000, and its actual cost, AC, is $260,000. What is the project's cost performance index, CPI? A. 0.96. B. 0.92. C. 1.04. D. 1.08. Answer: A. 0.96. The Cost Performance Index, CPI, is a measure of the cost efficiency of budgeted resources, calculated as earned value, EV, divided by actual cost, AC. In this case, EV is $250,000 and AC is $260,000, so the CPI is $250,000/$260,000, which equals approximately 0.96. A CPI less than 1.0 indicates that the project is over budget for the work completed, meaning it is getting less value than the money spent. Think of CPI as the value of work completed for each dollar spent. Here, for every dollar spent, only 96 cents of value was earned. Question 3. During project execution, the project manager observes that a critical team member is constantly overworked and showing signs of burnout, impacting productivity. The project schedule is tight, and the team size cannot be increased due to budget constraints. Which resource management strategy should the project manager prioritize to address this situation? A. Resource leveling. B. Resource smoothing. C. Acquire additional resources. D. Outsource the remaining work. Answer: B. Resource smoothing. Resource smoothing is a technique used to adjust the activities of a schedule model such that the resource requirements do not exceed predefined resource limits, often without exceeding the project completion date. Unlike resource leveling, which might delay the project to resolve resource overallocation, smoothing attempts to optimize resource utilization within the existing schedule constraints to maintain a more consistent resource usage, reducing peak demands or troughs. In this scenario, since increasing resources is not an option and the schedule is tight, smoothing aims to balance the workload for the overworked team member by adjusting non-critical activities without delaying the project. This helps improve team morale and maintain a sustainable pace. Question 4. An Agile team is performing sprint planning. The product owner presents a list of user stories, and the team estimates the effort required for each. To determine how much work the team can realistically commit to in the upcoming sprint, they review their past velocity. What concept are they applying here? A. Analogous estimating. B. Parametric estimating. C. Capacity planning. D. Bottom-up estimating. Answer: C. Capacity planning. Capacity planning in an Agile context involves determining the amount of work a team can realistically complete within a given iteration or sprint, based on their historical performance, velocity, and the availability of team members. The team uses its past velocity, which represents the amount of work, example story points, completed in previous sprints, to forecast what they can achieve in the next sprint. This helps them commit to a sustainable workload, preventing overcommitment and ensuring that the work planned aligns with the team's actual ability. Understanding the team's capacity ensures realistic planning and predictable delivery. Question 5. A project budget includes a contingency reserve. What is the primary purpose of this reserve? A. To cover known unknown risks. B. To cover unknown risks. C. To fund scope creep. D. To manage cost of quality activities. Answer: A. To cover known unknown risks. A contingency reserve is an amount of money or time allocated in the project budget or schedule to account for identified risks, also known as known unknowns. These are risks that have been identified and analyzed, and a provision is made for their potential impact. For example, if a specific technology component might fail, the contingency reserve would cover the cost of its replacement or repair. It is distinct from the management reserve, which covers unknown risks. Think of it as a buffer specifically set aside for predictable uncertainties. Question 6. The project team has completed the develop team process, which involved training and team-building activities. What is the primary intended outcome of these efforts regarding resource management? A. To reduce resource costs. B. To improve project schedule performance. C. To enhance team competencies and collaboration. D. To formalize team structure and reporting relationships. Answer: C. To enhance team competencies and collaboration. The develop team process in project resource management focuses on improving the competencies, team interaction, and overall team environment to enhance project performance. Training and team-building activities are key components of this process, directly aimed at boosting individual skills, fostering better communication, and building trust among team members. A well-developed team is more effective and productive, leading to better project outcomes, for example, by resolving conflicts more efficiently. This process isn't just about fun, it's about making the team a high-performing unit. Question 7. A project manager is preparing the project budget and needs to allocate funds for potential, unforeseen work that is outside the current scope baseline. Where should these funds be allocated? A. Contingency reserve. B. Management reserve. C. Cost baseline. D. Budget at completion, BAC. Answer: B. Management reserve. The management reserve is an amount of money or time added to the project's overall budget or schedule to account for unknown risks. These are risks that are entirely unforeseen and not covered by the contingency reserve, which addresses identified risks. For example, if a new government regulation emerges during the project requiring unexpected costly compliance measures, the management reserve would be used. The project manager does not have control over the management reserve. It is typically controlled by senior management and requires specific approval to access. Remember, management reserve is for true surprises. Question 8. A project has a budget at completion, BAC, of $500,000. At the current status, the earned value, EV, is $200,000, and the actual cost, AC, is $250,000. If the project's current variances are typical and expected to continue, what is the estimate at completion, EAC? A. $400,000. B. $500,000. C. $625,000. D. $750,000. Answer: C. $625,000. When current variances are typical and expected to continue, the estimate at completion, EAC, is calculated using the formula, EAC equals BAC/CPI. First, calculate the Cost Performance Index, CPI, as EV/AC, which is $200,000/$250,000 equals 0.8. Then, calculate EAC as $500,000/0.8 equals $625,000. This calculation provides a revised estimate of the total project cost, assuming past cost performance will continue throughout the remainder of the project. A higher EAC than BAC indicates the project is projected to be over budget. Question 9. An Agile team is experiencing a high rate of absenteeism and low morale. The team members are frequently missing stand-up meetings and not engaging in sprint retrospectives. Which of the following is the most effective approach for the Scrum Master to address this resource issue? A. Implement stricter attendance policies and penalties. B. Report the issues to the project sponsor for intervention. C. Facilitate a retrospective to understand root causes and collaboratively find solutions. D. Reassign underperforming team members to less critical tasks. Answer: C. Facilitate a retrospective to understand root causes and collaboratively find solutions. In an Agile environment, addressing team issues like absenteeism and low morale is best handled by empowering the team to identify and solve its own problems. A retrospective provides a dedicated forum for the team to reflect on recent performance, openly discuss challenges, understand the root causes of their current struggles, and collaboratively brainstorm solutions. This approach aligns with Agile principles of self-organization and continuous improvement, fostering a sense of ownership and psychological safety for the team to address underlying issues effectively. This is far more effective than top-down mandates, which can further erode morale. Question 10. A project manager discovers that a critical piece of equipment needed for the project is no longer available from the preferred vendor and a more expensive alternative must be procured. What should the project manager do first? A. Update the cost baseline immediately. B. Use the management reserve to cover the increased cost. C. Analyze the impact on the project budget and scope, and then seek approval for changes. D. Change the project schedule to accommodate the new equipment delivery. Answer: C. Analyze the impact on the project budget and scope, and then seek approval for changes. When an unexpected cost increase occurs due to a resource issue, the project manager's first step is to thoroughly analyze the impact on the project's objectives, specifically the budget and potentially the schedule or scope. This analysis involves quantifying the cost difference and understanding any associated implications. After completing this analysis, the project manager should follow the project's change control process to request approval for the necessary adjustments, potentially drawing from the contingency reserve if it was an identified risk. Only after approval should the cost baseline be updated. Question 11. What is the primary purpose of the resource breakdown structure, RBS? A. To allocate specific resources to project activities. B. To estimate the cost of each resource type. C. To categorize and define project resources by type and function. D. To monitor resource utilization over time. Answer: C. To categorize and define project resources by type and function. The resource breakdown structure, RBS, is a hierarchical list of resources by category and type, used for planning, managing, and controlling project resources. It helps organize and define the various types of resources, such as labor, example engineers, technicians, materials, example concrete, steel, and equipment, example cranes, software licenses, required for the project. By categorizing resources, it simplifies resource planning, estimation, and tracking throughout the project lifecycle. Think of it as an organizational chart for your project's various resource categories. Question 12. A project's current schedule performance index, SPI, is 0.85, and its cost performance index, CPI, is 0.90. The project manager needs to communicate the project status to stakeholders. What is the most accurate summary of the project's performance? A. The project is ahead of schedule and under budget. B. The project is behind schedule and over budget. C. The project is ahead of schedule and over budget. D. The project is behind schedule and under budget. Answer: B. The project is behind schedule and over budget. In earned value management, an SPI, Schedule Performance Index, less than 1.0 indicates that the project is behind schedule, meaning less work has been completed than planned. A CPI, Cost Performance Index, less than 1.0 indicates that the project is over budget, meaning the work completed has cost more than planned. Therefore, with an SPI of 0.85 and a CPI of 0.90, the project is both behind schedule and over budget. These indices provide a clear, quantitative snapshot of project performance relative to the baseline. Question 13. A project manager is developing the project budget. They have calculated the cost for all work packages and included contingency reserves. What is the result of summing these costs and reserves? A. Management reserve. B. Cost baseline. C. Budget at completion, BAC. D. Estimate at completion, EAC. Answer: B. Cost baseline. The cost baseline is the approved version of the project budget, excluding any management reserves. It is developed by summing the estimated costs of all work packages within the work breakdown structure, WBS, and adding any approved contingency reserves. This baseline is then used as a reference point to monitor and control project cost performance. It represents the authorized budget against which project expenditures are measured. Remember, the cost baseline is the foundation for managing your project's financial performance. Question 14. In an Agile project, how is budget managed most effectively, especially when the scope is expected to evolve? A. By establishing a detailed, fixed budget up front for the entire project. B. By relying on a time and materials contract with no fixed budget ceiling. C. By focusing on value delivery and frequent re-estimation, often within a fixed time/variable scope framework. D. By deferring all budget decisions until the project is near completion. Answer: C. By focusing on value delivery and frequent re-estimation, often within a fixed time/variable scope framework. Agile projects manage budgets effectively by embracing iterative development and a focus on delivering value frequently. Instead of a rigid, upfront budget for a fixed scope, Agile typically operates within a fixed time frame and budget, while allowing the scope to be variable and prioritized based on value. This involves frequent re-estimation of remaining work, continuous stakeholder engagement to prioritize features, and adapting the backlog to maximize value delivered within the allocated resources. This approach allows for flexibility and responsiveness to changing requirements while maintaining financial control. Question 15. A project is halfway through its planned duration. The original budget at completion, BAC, was $800,000. Currently, the earned value, EV, is $350,000, and the actual cost, AC, is $400,000. If the project manager believes that future work will be performed at the budgeted rate, what is the estimate to complete, ETC? A. $400,000. B. $450,000. C. $500,000. D. $350,000. Answer: B. $450,000. When it is assumed that future work will be performed at the budgeted rate, i.e., at the original planned efficiency, the estimate to complete, ETC, is calculated as budget at completion, BAC, minus earned value, EV. In this scenario, BAC is $800,000 and EV is $350,000, so ETC equals $800,000 to $350,000 equals $450,000. This calculation provides a forward-looking estimate for the cost of the remaining work, assuming that any past cost or schedule inefficiencies will not impact future performance. It's a common assumption when a project manager believes they have identified and resolved the root causes of past variances. Question 16. A project manager is concerned about resource overallocation during peak periods, which could lead to team burnout and delays. The project has some flexibility regarding its end date, but major changes to the scope are not allowed. Which technique should the project manager use to optimize resource utilization? A. Resource smoothing. B. Critical path method. C. Resource leveling. D. Fast tracking. Answer: C. Resource leveling. Resource leveling is a technique used to adjust the schedule of activities to balance resource demand with the available supply, particularly when resources are overallocated or underallocated. It often involves delaying or accelerating tasks, which can change the critical path and potentially extend the project's completion date. Since the project has some flexibility in its end date and the primary concern is overallocation, resource leveling is the most suitable approach to prevent burnout and ensure sustainable resource use. This method helps maintain a more consistent level of resource usage across the project. Question 17. Which of the following is a key input to the estimate costs process? A. Cost management plan. B. Project funding requirements. C. Earned value management system. D. Cost forecasts. Answer: A. Cost management plan. The cost management plan is a crucial input to the estimate costs process because it describes how the project costs will be planned, structured, and controlled. It outlines the methodology for estimating costs, the level of precision required, the reporting formats, and the rules of performance measurement. Without this plan, the project manager would not have the necessary guidelines and procedures to effectively perform the cost estimation. It essentially provides the framework for all cost-related activities on the project. Question 18. A project manager is faced with a situation where senior management has imposed a strict funding limit for the project, which is lower than the initial estimated budget. What must the project manager do to address this funding constraint? A. Request additional funding from external sources. B. Reevaluate project scope and quality to align with the funding limits. C. Ignore the funding limit and continue with the original plan. D. Increase the management reserve to cover the deficit. Answer: B. Reevaluate project scope and quality to align with the funding limits. When a project faces a strict funding limit that is below the initial estimates, the project manager must engage in funding reconciliation. This process involves adjusting aspects of the project, such as scope, schedule, or quality, to ensure that the project's costs do not exceed the imposed funding limits. It often requires prioritizing features, delaying less critical work, or finding less expensive alternatives, all while maintaining the core value of the project. This is a critical balancing act to deliver the most value within financial constraints. Question 19. What is the primary purpose of a resource calendar in project management? A. To track the actual cost of resources. B. To define the types of resources available. C. To specify the availability of project resources, including dates and shifts. D. To record team member performance. Answer: C. To specify the availability of project resources, including dates and shifts. A resource calendar identifies the working days, shifts, start and end of normal business hours, and holidays for specific resources. It specifies when and for how long identified project resources will be available during the project. This information is critical for accurate resource planning and scheduling, ensuring that tasks are assigned only when the necessary human or physical resources are actually able to work. For example, knowing a specific expert is only available Tuesday to Thursday is vital for scheduling tasks they are involved in. Question 20. An organization decides to use a fixed-price contract for a portion of a project where the scope is well defined. Which of the following cost estimating techniques is most suitable for developing the bid for this type of contract? A. Analogous estimating. B. Parametric estimating. C. Bottom-up estimating. D. Three-point estimating, PERT. Answer: C. Bottom-up estimating. For fixed-price contracts, where the seller assumes most of the cost risk and the scope is typically well-defined, bottom-up estimating is the most appropriate technique for developing a precise bid. This method involves estimating the cost of individual work packages at the lowest level of the work breakdown structure, WBS, and then rolling these detailed estimates up to get the total cost. This provides the highest level of accuracy and detail necessary to confidently commit to a fixed price, as opposed to less precise methods like analogous or parametric estimating. Detailed estimates minimize unexpected costs under a fixed price agreement. Question 21. Which earned value management, EVM, metric indicates the efficiency of the project's work in terms of progress completed versus what was planned? A. Cost Performance Index, CPI. B. Cost Variance, CV. C. Schedule Performance Index, SPI. D. Schedule Variance, SV. Answer: C. Schedule Performance Index, SPI. The Schedule Performance Index, SPI, measures the schedule efficiency of the project, indicating how efficiently the project team is progressing compared to the planned schedule. It is calculated as earned value, EV, divided by planned value, PV. An SPI greater than 1.0 indicates that the project is ahead of schedule, while an SPI less than 1.0 indicates it is behind schedule. This index provides a clear ratio of work completed versus work expected to be completed at a given point in time. Question 22. A project manager is acquiring resources for a complex project. One key technical role is proving difficult to fill due to a shortage of qualified candidates in the market. What is the best course of action for the project manager? A. Reduce the scope of the project to eliminate the need for the role. B. Reevaluate the project's resource management plan, considering alternative strategies. C. Assign the role to a less qualified internal resource and provide extensive training. D. Postpone the project until a qualified candidate becomes available. Answer: B. Reevaluate the project's resource management plan, considering alternative strategies. When facing a challenge in acquiring a critical resource, a project manager should reevaluate the resource management plan to explore alternative strategies. This could include reassessing the specific skills required, looking at outsourcing options, adjusting the project schedule to accommodate a longer search, or considering a combination of less specialized resources. It's about adapting the plan to the realities of resource availability rather than making drastic, unanalyzed changes or simply waiting. A proactive review allows for creative problem solving to meet resource needs. Question 23. A project budget contains a significant amount allocated to unidentified risks. This allocation is specifically for potential project changes that are not currently part of the baseline. What type of reserve does this describe? A. Contingency reserve. B. Management reserve. C. Cost baseline. D. Budget at completion, BAC. Answer: B. Management reserve. The description of funds allocated to unidentified risks or potential project changes that are not currently part of the baseline directly refers to the management reserve. This reserve is specifically set aside for unknown events, risks that have not been identified and cannot be specifically accounted for during planning. It is typically controlled by senior management and requires formal approval to be used, acting as a buffer for truly unforeseen circumstances. Think of it as the ultimate safety net for your project's budget. Question 24. Which of the following is a key output of the estimate activity resources process? A. Project schedule network diagrams. B. Activity resource requirements. C. Resource breakdown structure. D. Project team assignments. Answer: B. Activity resource requirements. The estimate activity resources process involves determining the types and quantities of resources required for each activity in a work package. Its primary output is the activity resource requirements, which detail the specific types and amounts of human resources, equipment, and materials needed for each activity in the project schedule. This information then feeds into subsequent processes like acquire resources and develop schedule. Knowing exactly what resources are needed for each task is fundamental for effective project planning. Question 25. A project is currently exhibiting a to-complete performance index, TCPI, of 1.15 based on the budget at completion, BAC. What does this TCPI value indicate? A. The project is currently under budget. B. The project will be completed under budget if future work is performed at the current efficiency. C. The project will require 15% more efficiency for the remaining work to meet the BAC. D. The project is currently ahead of schedule. Answer: C. The project will require 15% more efficiency for the remaining work to meet the BAC. The To-Complete Performance Index, TCPI, is a measure of the cost performance that must be achieved on the remaining work to meet a specified management goal, either the budget at completion, BAC, or the estimate at completion, EAC. A TCPI greater than 1.0, like 1.15, based on BAC means that the remaining work must be completed at a higher efficiency than originally planned, 15% higher in this case, to finish within the original budget. It acts as a warning sign, indicating that the project is likely to exceed its budget unless significant improvements in cost performance occur for the remaining work.